Okay, so we're going to call the meeting to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. I'm going to do a roll call.
Yep, I can do the roll call. I'll just go around in order. Anne Marie Orlowski.
I'm here.
Chuck Martin.
Here.
Mark Horton.
I'm here.
Vanessa Jones.
Here.
Tom Lewis.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Jim Kolagowski is not here. And John Hurling is not here, but he may be coming in a few because I believe he said he was coming.
Okay, I assume Phil Kramer will not be here.
And Mayor Kramer is not here. Correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So now we're going to skip the next thing on the agenda, which is the approval of the March minutes. We're going to save that for our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll move on to public comment. And this is a point we'd like to invite everybody in the public to please, you're welcome to introduce yourself and say what you're saying.
I'll start. I'm happy to be here. I'll just listen and watch. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for being here.
Any other comments from the public?
Yes, I just wanted to mention something.
Go ahead.
It's something I wanted. I think I was maybe at the March meeting. It was the last meeting before things were shut down. I don't know if it was that or February, but it just seemed to me that the rail corridor that the township owns between South Middlebush Road and Elizabeth Avenue is really, just a prime opportunity for connecting. I know that you were talking about a vertical trail corridor along South Middlebush, and connecting that along the old right-of-way to Elizabeth Avenue, and then you're in the area of Colonial Park with the canal trail adjacent to that at the west end. And one of the committee members mentioned something about a NIMBY problem. I mean, I could see, where it's actually out of the range of, east of South Middlebush Road, where you have heavy encroachment on both sides. Once you get into the township section, just west of South Middlebush, you have preserved open farmland to the south, and then once it crosses over Amwell Road, where that elbow is, you've got farmland to the north. And those houses that front on Amwell Road have pretty deep lots. It seems like most of them are maybe like about a third of the way, maybe half the way back, the dwelling, on the property. And the corridor runs along the farmland. On the east side of Amwell, it runs behind a row of houses along Smith Road, but it seems like it's maybe a little bit farther back, like, I don't know, 30, 50 feet. I know there's, in Monmouth County, there's a trail to Henry Hudson where they, in certain areas, when they put that trail through there, they pushed it back from the right-of-way. In a couple of areas, maybe where people didn't want it running right behind their backyard line, but this one seems like, again, east of Amwell, seems like the rail corridor is not really far back from the houses, the property lines, but like it might be far enough. Anyway, I just thought utilizing this corridor would be a great way to connect the South Middlebush, proposed South Middlebush Trail over to the Elizabeth Avenue, Colonial Park area. And it just seemed like a prime resource if it could at all possible be taken, advantage of. I think it would be a good idea.
I think I'm muted.
No, you're good.
I hear you.
Yes, this is John Martin. I'm not the secretary. Unfortunately, I didn't catch your name. Could you give me your name, please?
Sure, it's James Callahan.
Okay.
Live in Hillsborough.
Our meeting before, James, I'm sure, and appreciate your participation.
Sure.
Okay, great. So I took a note of that, and we can definitely discuss that, when we get to the point where we're doing that with our Pathway and Trails plan to discuss that potential connection.
Uh-huh. Okay, great. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Everybody stay well.
You too.
Thank you.
You too. Is there any other public comments?
If you just want to introduce yourself, that's fine too.
No? Okay.
Okay, so then no further public comment. We'll move on to old business. And the first thing on our old business is our Pathways and Trails plan or work session.
Okay, so I spoke.
Hi, one
Go ahead.
second, sorry. I got on about 10 after. I just wanted to introduce Sonu, who's expressed an interest in joining the Trails Committee, so I invited him to be an attendee. I see he's on the attendee list. Sonu, I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah, I think I just spoke a few minutes back before you joined, just saying that I'm happy to be here. And I actually went to the meeting in March, but expressed my interest in joining. And I sent in my application also 3 months back, but I'm waiting to hear back.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you. We'll look forward to joining you.
Thank you.
I'll just piggyback that. There's two people who I've invited to our meeting today, Ava Joseph and Wale as well, who have expressed interest in joining our committee, and so they're here to observe us today. So just to let you know that they're with us too.
Okay, could I get the spelling of your members' names, please? Is it Ava Joseph?
Yeah, Ava is AVA, and Joseph, the traditional JOSEPH.
Okay.
And the other name, hold on one second, is first name OLEWOLE.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part.
O
Okay, O.
L
Okay.
E
Uh-huh.
WOLE.
Olawale?
And then the last name
Okay.
is OSUNTUYI.
Great, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Wale is always a 6 mile run on the trails biking, and Ava came to our Firefly hike last year as an environmental engineer, expressed interest. Both of them have been expressing interest over the last couple years, and they're finally here today to check things out.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. Is now a good time to move on to the Pathways and Trails?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay,
Terry, do you want to get us started with that?
Okay, so I spoke to Jim before the last 2 days before the meeting about how we would handle doing the Pathways and Trails work virtually. And his recommendation was that we maybe table it for this month, just because it's difficult to go over the maps and have talking and have the public comment this way. So if everyone's okay with that, we can definitely, if we are allowed to meet in person in July, we'll do that. I don't know if we'll be able to. Or if it has to be virtual and you really want to do it next time, we can try and figure out a way that makes it, it's just easier sometimes because we're in the phase of looking at the actual trail segments. It's nice to be able to see the map and like talk about it and, you know, all those things. It's just a little bit difficult to do this way.
Thoughts from the committee members? Are you guys, if you're interested in doing that, we can postpone it, and then certainly if we're doing a virtual meeting in July, we'll need to make sure that we have the maps uploaded so we can share them on the screens. So that way we can still do the same thing we did in person but virtually. Or do you guys prefer that we just try to chip away at it today?
There certainly is a point to having the maps and everything in front of us because we always seem to refer to them. And also if we would have in advance where we left off with, so we were fresh and ready to go. I feel like I've lost track of where we were in the whole process because it's been going on for a while.
Yeah. Could I move the table? Move to table the discussion on pathways and trails again?
I second it.
Okay. Mark, I see your smirk, but no words are needed, Mark.
Yeah, I think we've been delaying long enough, but due to the technical issues, I will concede the point.
We're going to be ready to buckle down in July. Whether it's in person or virtual, we'll need to have the maps so we can share our screens and look at the same day at the same time, because there's the technology to do it. We're just not prepared to do it tonight.
And also see where we left off so we can refresh ourselves.
Right, we need the minutes, right. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and move on to the next item in old business, the photo contest.
Okay, so the photo contest, the last day to submit photos is June 26th. So still a few weeks for people to submit photos. We do have some submissions in. I usually do get the bulk of the submissions in the last 10 days or so. So I'm expecting that. But right now we do have about 12 to 15-ish submissions. So again, I'm expecting more in the next, 10 days or so, and I'll keep you all posted once it's closed, how many submissions we got, and I'll start compiling everything and getting the scoring sheets together, like we normally do.
Is there enough from each trail to choose something from?
As of right now, they're mostly from, Negri, Griggstown, Inman. But again, we usually get the bulk. Like I get, just like a bunch in a day, the last 10 days leading up. So I think we'll be okay because for the last few years we've had a good amount from each trail.
Okay.
Okay. We can move on now to new business. The first item is the cancellation of National Trails Day, which was last weekend. For 2020.
Yeah, yeah. So, National Trails Day was canceled. Interestingly enough, the American Hiking Association sent around an email regarding any postponed National Trails Day that at least for the month of June and July, they are asking not to use the hashtag National Trails Day because right now they want to focus on hashtags associated with any type of, protesting and things like that going on. So at least for the upcoming few weeks, there's going to be no National Trails Day hashtag to be used. But when we move forward and if we want to schedule National Trails Day for the fall or winter or, the spring, then we can absolutely go ahead and do that again.
Great. Thank you. The next item for new business is the prescribed burn at the John Klein Native Grasslands Preserve.
Right. I submitted the application to do the prescribed burn at John Klein Native Grasslands. It's all based on the recommendations provided by the plan we had updated from Autobahn. And then, as you probably remember, those recommendations I brought to the Trails Committee, to a subcommittee, and also to the Open Space Advisory Committee just for review of what was liked and what was not liked. Those recommendations or proposed areas were submitted to the New Jersey Fire Service, which does the prescribed burn. So I confirmed the application was received, and they're going to start reviewing it and putting it together, putting everything they need together, and we'll have an answer if they're going to work with us at the John Clyde Preserve. If they do that, it would happen in 2021. And what they would do is right now start working to put together, they have to put together a burning plan, meaning the locations that they'll burn, as well as the accelerants that they use, as well as any smoke plans, weather plans, education plans for neighbors and anyone that may be interested, signage. So they put all of that together. And then basically we start planning they give us a few dates in a certain period of time that will work. The one thing they did caution, which I think I mentioned before, is that this prescribed burn, I'm sure as you all realize, is very highly dependent on the wind. So if it's a windy day, that could cancel it. If it's too rainy, that can cancel it. So it's going to be, if we can get it done in the time frame that they give us, great. If not, it'll be moved at least another few months. But the good thing about going through this program is that it's a free service to the township because we are an eligible entity to receive their planning. So they will fund not only the planning of it, but the actual burn and any materials, education components. So all of that will be covered if we get approved.
Was your application to DEP or what agency did your application?
No, it's to the New Jersey Fire Safety Service. So that's who runs, or when legislation was passed in 2018 to expand the prescribed burn program, that's the agency that was given the duties to carry it out and enforce it and all of that. So the application goes directly to them.
How much of your, what parts of Grassland were in your application? Was it the entire grassland areas, which we have many, or was it just some specific areas to start out with?
It was the specific areas that Audubon recommended, and then the areas that we went through as a group and we asked to have removed because they were important for bird habitat or didn't make sense or we didn't want to lose all those hedgerows. When we took that big table of recommendations and then whittled it down from all of your comments and the comments from OSAC, the remaining areas was what was submitted. Not all of those areas will probably be selected by New Jersey Fire Safety Service, but they want you to submit, as many areas as you can, and then they will put their criteria on it to see which will actually make it through.
Yeah. Did part of the original recommendation was removal of some hedgerows. Is that going through, or can we wait on that? The reason I'm asking is that it's come to our attention that maybe certain hedgerows maybe should not be removed, particularly those that are along streams in the area. Other concerns of surface as well. Is that going through, or are we waiting on that?
Well, the last time we had a meeting, I think the thought was that it was going to go through and happen, but we haven't done anything yet. When we get back to, working at, like full capacity, I think if you find it as a group important to have those hedgerows removed immediately, we can definitely ask DPW to start working on that. If it's worth waiting, we can do that, but no, nothing has been done to the hedgerows just yet.
Yeah, my concern is hedgerows that we originally thought should be removed. Maybe it's better not to remove them, but that's if things are not going forward right now. I'd just like to talk about it.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We can definitely talk about that or hold off on that if need be. But the burn, the planning of the burn takes a lot longer than actually doing the burn itself. So they'll start working on that now, and they'll share all of the documents with us as they're being drafted. So it won't just be, here it is and that's it. We'll have an active role in it.
Thank you.
So Tara, as of now, like the plan is what we had discussed that one day when we had said, okay, don't remove these hedgerows, but that one or two you can remove. That's the plan. And so Chuck,
Yes.
what you're saying is you want us to revisit that and possibly suggest leaving more hedgerows?
That's correct.
Okay. And so Tara, you think we'll have time to get back to that, Tara?
I'm sorry?
We'll have time to get back to that before it actually happens?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep. And like I said, the documents, any planning documents or maps will be shared with us, and I'll be able to show them to you, and we can go through it and really, edit what we need to and all that. But right now, it's still in the application review phase. The other thing I wanted to tell you about, was Negri for the prescribed burn. We didn't submit any application for Negri for the prescribed burn this time. Because there was a lot of areas that were not recommended for burning at Negri. And so for our first application, we figured we would submit it for John Clyde just to kind of really get the feel for how the program works. And, and then the next go around, because we can keep submitting. So the next go around, we can do more there, or we can try for the portions of Negri that are allowable.
Great, thank you. The next item is the Simonson Brook Trail Extension at the John Clyde Native Grassland Preserves in Griggstown.
This is Chuck actually wanted to add this to the agenda.
Yes, would you like me to talk about it then?
Sure.
I'd like to consider including an extension to the John Clyde Junior Trail along Simonson Brook into the environmental center. The trail would start from John Clyde Junior Trail, is just be an offshoot of it, about at the point where it's closest to Simonson Brook, and it would proceed to land, which I have understand now was originally part of DNR Greenway Trust, but has been turned over to the township. And so now we can have a continuous trail going from Clyde Junior to the Marsh Trail, the trail that ends at the marsh in the environmental. It's a really nice setting. It's not in the brook, it's over the brook in sections. You can actually see the brook as you're going up, proceeding along the trail. The trail is actually there. It's been used for years by deer and hunters and hikers, probably hikers that were hiking through the DNR Greenway Trust primarily. I think it would be a terrific addition to our inventory, and would also bring us to include connections to the environmental center trails as well. There's a blue trail in the environmental center, which is a very nice trail. It was set up for educational purposes, and there's sort of a history with the environmental center, which was established, as I understand, in 1986, before the Open Space Act was approved. And it was used extensively, but it was maintained by the Board of Education. And as I understand it, when the Christie budget cuts came through for education, the Board of Education no longer supports various aspects of it, including trail maintenance and events at the center, and maintenance of, like, the caretaker's house that's a part of the center as well. Those trails, the blue trail in the environmental center, which is listed as a purple trail on our Griggstown Trails map, actually connects with all of our Griggstown trails. It connects with the brown trail, connects with the yellow trail, that connects with, and with this addition, it would also connect with the John Clyde Jr. Trail. There is one concern that I have. I've been out several times trying to map out locations in it, and the trail itself has several diversions at certain points. I'm not sure if the in one location of the trail where it might actually wander into a small portion of private property that I gave the addresses to Tara, that they're on, it's where Simonson Brook goes into private property, at the end of private property on, what is the avenue of that? It's the road closest to the DNR Canal Trust land that was turned over to us, is all I can say. There are several paths it can take. Some might wander into that, some of them might not. But I would like to get a better GPS location of those parts of the trail to make sure that we're not going into private property over this small section, if that's the case. So anyway, that's my concern. My proposal, and I'd like the committee to consider adding this trail to our inventory and correcting some of our maps with respect to the trails that are on our inventory that are part of the environmental center, which are mislabeled.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Do you think maybe we could, some of us who are interested could go with you maybe and check it out, the section you're talking about, Chuck?
Terrific. Let's do that. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll do it 10 feet apart, you know.
Oh yeah, safe distance.
Better time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I'm familiar with the area, but I can't visualize exactly the trail you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But
we had actually planned an event at the environmental center, and actually Parks and Recreation has now become interested in doing events at the environmental center, and I'm hoping that we could work together with Parks and Recreation to maybe adopt and maintain the environmental center and its trails in lieu of the Board of Education, in order to just preserve. It's an enormously valuable asset.
Yeah.
It's an enormously valuable educational asset for the township. There's a very nice classroom building in there that has not been used, but it's still in good shape and maintained. It has indoor toilet facilities. It has water. And it's a great place for classroom setting, particularly for younger kids.
We talked about this at one of our previous meetings. You talked about the facility and the building.
Right.
I think that we're all on board with you with that. I know the many years I worked for Parks and Recreation, we used that facility. Adventure Camp was out of that actual building
Right.
that you're talking about.
Right.
So I'm familiar with it too. And so I think that we could try to schedule something for ourselves, whether we do it independently. Now that we have some more information, we could do it, or if we want to do it spread out in a little bit, we could consider that too.
Sure.
And you're going to look at
Anytime anybody wants to go with me out to those trails, just give me a call. I probably have more flexible time than the rest of you, and so whatever you can do would be terrific. I'd love to go with you.
But question for Chuck.
Yes.
Does it follow the Simonson Brook very closely the entire length?
There are considerable sections of it. I would say maybe 3/5 of the trail. You can actually look down over Simonson Brook.
I'm just thinking that if I'm out there myself, then I might try and follow it at some point, even if I'm not there with other people.
Right. That would be terrific. I haven't gone, I can actually go out and mark it. I can use yellow tape, orange tape markers if you would like.
Yeah, let's not use those metal ones as we're going to talk about shortly.
No. We don't have enough. but I could flag it, which might help. And I might be able to do that in the next couple of days if you like.
And maybe
No hurry on my account. I wouldn't be able to get out there till at least Sunday, and
Okay.
probably won't. And probably be the following weekend.
Okay.
Chuck, another idea, maybe you could just take a trail map and highlight, on our John Clyde Ridgetown trail maps where it goes, because I'm sure that land is probably on the map already, or no?
Actually, it's not, because it was originally part of that DNR Greenway Trust.
Okay, I just thought that maybe you would
Yeah.
on the same piece of paper.
Actually, I've been sort of struggling with this because I'm using the interactive township maps to try to find out, correct GPS locations of the corners of these lots. So I'm actually measuring with a ruler on my video screen, and then I'm trying to translate that to GPS maps that I'm generating with my iPhone, which are not very accurate, particularly in that location. But I'm close, but I'm not perfect. But I can also send all of you a GPS map that I generated from my iPhone app. That might help with that. But unfortunately, the GPS signal there for the iPhone GPS is not good.
Okay.
They may be off like as much as 50 feet. Whereas other areas, sometimes I can get down to 10 feet. So.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
The next item is the trail markers, current inventory, and potential new system. I know that Mark had sent something out to us to consider thinking about.
Before we do that, I think Anne Marie was trying to say something, but she's on mute.
Oh, Anne Marie, can you?
Anne Marie, you got to unmute yourself.
I unmuted. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Chuck, the question I had was the properties that we don't know if they're private or not. Do you need any other resources so we can determine if they are private or not as we're developing this trail plan?
We would need a more accurate GPS. I understand from that some years ago, a GPS device was purchased with open space funds, and the interactive township maps, which I believe are very accurate. Phil, do you have any insight into that?
Phil, you're muted.
Yeah.
How accurate the GPS maps are?
Yes.
I think they're pretty darn.
Well, I would
Do we know
hope.
where that device is? I do recall back in early Trails Advisory Committee history that device did exist, and it was either with the township planner or it was because we didn't have as big of an IT presence then. It may have shifted over to the IT group since then, but I thought it was with the planner or the engineer back in the day.
Yeah. I think
How accurate it'll be under a
John
tree.
Luce used to borrow it. John Luce used to borrow it from somebody and then return it, but it wasn't his. It was the township.
Yeah, I understand from John that they had loaded the interactive township maps onto that device, so you could follow where you were with respect to private property.
But I don't know how accurate it's going to be under a tree canopy.
Say that again?
I don't know how accurate it will be under a tree canopy.
Yes, well, I think that's one of the big problems of the GPS signal. I don't know. Some GPS receivers are better than others. The surveyors use these things with an antenna sticking out their backpack that gets a better signal. I don't know whether that's in that range or not?
I remember seeing it once, and I thought it was similar to that type of contraption with quite a large antenna. So.
Well, it's you know, to really firm it up, I think we need a bit better GPS location than what I can generate. I can do it the scientific way. I can do many measurements over many days. You know,
maybe Tara can check in with either the planner or the engineer. She can just ask around, or the IT group, and see if any of them know where that device is, if it's still around.
Yes, I have a note to do that, and I will do that right away.
All right, Tara, terrific. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, I actually skipped an item, so I'm going to go back to D, which was correcting trail maps for Bunker Hill Natural Area.
Chuck, did you basically cover that for the most part, or?
Well, there are several parts of the. Well, first of all, I'm struggling to get up the file again. Sorry, Vanessa. There are several areas that I think need to be corrected. For example, the trail extension that you put in the Bunker Hill area, I don't believe is on our current map.
No. There's been a few changes that have not. The map hasn't been done since I've been on the committee. And
right.
Yeah, so the brown loop that goes around the back by the cliffs, the lollipop loop up top near the golf course, and then just the reroute where the erosion was from when the yellow meets the brown. Yeah, all of those are not on the trail map.
Also, there's a loop on the blue trail of the environmental center. There's I know it's not on the map, and of course, our map's showing the purple trail when it's actually there are blue trail markers on it. Then we have, as Anne Maria knows as well, we discovered that there's a brown trail in the Memorial Forest, and I had a great time with you out there trying to find the markers. There are quite a few missing. It's not clear at all where that trail is.
That was a mistake.
So that definitely needs to be remapped or and maybe even made better. I mean, Anne Marie can speak to this as well. But those are points of concern. There is a concern also with. I got involved with the Tri-State Ramblers, which is the probably the major hiking club in New Jersey, and I was trying to get members to take an interest in our trails, so I got a phone call from Deborah, a township resident who's a member of this club, and she said, "I'm lost on the Red Trail." What she had done, she had explored the Bunker Hill Natural Area and Franklin trails that Vanessa monitors, and was very happy with these. But then she took a group of with her on the Red Trail across Bunker Hill Road into the subdivision.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
And she got lost. She was fine till she got onto Winding Way, which is the street that hikers have to walk around a short distance. There are markers on all the telephone poles of Winding Way, but she got lost at the part of the road that's a township road that goes into that athletic field off Winding Way. And I sort of got her back on track. She found it, but it's not well marked, and there are also some concerns, as I understand from the Township interactive maps, that the road going into the athletic field is Township property. The area around the retaining wall, which is quite a large area that hikers would go around, is also Township property. But once you get to the retaining wall, that becomes property of the subdivision. And I forget the name of the subdivision. Someone has blocked off the Township part of the road. And someone has also put up a sign, which I believe they put up a sign on the Township property of the road that says private property, no trespassing. And that clearly needs to be clarified and marked better. And the trail markers between those houses need to be improved, I think, dressed up a bit. So those are my concerns. And,
yeah, Chuck, I second those concerns. You know, I myself, the first time I went out there, was only able to connect from Bunker Hill to Griggstown because somebody had done a blog online with photos that walked you through step by step. Because even those road markers are not our trail markers. So it's not a consistent marker even.
right.
And then, yes, you get to that point where it's like this ball field area, the back way into Griggstown. So I don't know, Tara, if you have any advice for us for this?
Okay. Yeah, so I have, before everything happened, I was supposed to meet with AT. He is our GIS person in our IT department because, you know, that's one of our big projects that we want to work on. We wanted, you know, one of our goals to work on for 2020, probably going to be completed more in like 2021, early 2021, I hope. But we want to update all of these maps for all the trails because they all have issues and they're all outdated. So it's definitely something that is on our radar, and we're going to try and kind of come up with the process of how we do it. And we're going to have to do it trail by trail. It's going to involve going out there with the GPS tool so that we can then digitize that information and make it a better map for all the trails. So we'll have to go trail by trail. If you want me to prioritize which one should go first, we can definitely do that. But yeah, it's on the radar to update all these maps.
So Tara, in addition to the maps, though, the confusion where Bunker Hill connects to Griggstown, like, is there a way to also, because that's a marker issue, and then like as Chuck just described, like some confusion about whose property it is. Is that something that we can look into as well?
Oh, sure, yeah, yep. I can look into that and see what's the situation there. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so that segues into trail markers. Mark, do you want to lead that conversation?
Sure. I'm hoping I might find a way to share my screen, but that option is currently disabled. I do have a photo that I sent around. Is that an option, Tara?
I'm looking to see if I can make it possible for you to do that. Give me 1 minute here.
Okay. Well, the key issue that I'll start talking about without a picture is just the fact that we've been using these square metal, thin metal signs, and they have a lot of issues. I mean, we have to nail them into the trees. You know, I think Chuck has come up with a better, although certainly it sounds far more complicated way of having to go out there and manually screw in, you know, these these corrosion-resistant screws that one can then back out as the tree grows. But what I just don't understand is why don't we do the basic, simple things? Yeah, that's good. That's another way to handle it. Thank you, Vanessa, for taking an alternate
Mark,
direction.
try now to share your screen.
Okay, there we go. Let me see, share. Hang on a minute. Yes, I think I might have this opportunity here. So one moment, please. I should hopefully be able to do this.
There you go.
Yes.
We got it.
Should be able to see the lovely photo of how deeply embedded this trail marker has managed to become in this poor tree. The tree's doing its best to work literally around it, but it's not a good situation. And I mean, it's kind of dangerous when he goes and puts their hand on it or grabs it or tries to deal with it. It's rather sharp, these things. They're a bit pokey. I just don't understand why we don't go to a simpler method. The Powerlands Preserve, if you're there, has paint blazes. Paint blazes seem like a lot better plan to me. I don't know if there's a reason why we don't do that, but I guess I would rather see that. I would think it would be somewhat more resource efficient in some ways, and not just environmentally friendly for not doing this to a tree, but environmentally friendly for not requiring some place to manufacture these things, but to just slap up a little bit of pigment on a tree. I'm sure we can find more green paint options that might be all right, if that's a concern. But I certainly would think it's better than this. So that's my thought, that we, as we go through and start to look to replace signage, or remark or things like that, or add where things are missing, that we might want to consider an alternative marking method. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
I've been out on the trails quite a lot the last few weeks because it's sort of what I can do, and it keeps me off the streets. I've actually been trying to replace markers in some areas and cut brush away so you can see the markers in others, and so on. And I've also sort of been reflecting on this marker situation. It seems to me like it might be useful to try using different kinds of markers for different situations. We have, for example, in Negri, Napoti, and Grigstown, we have trail markers on 4x4 posts. And, I was sort of experimenting with maybe just making a routed out, taking a 2x4 and routing out an arrow into the 2x4 and painting the arrow, and then strewing that onto the 4x4 post. In the area on that red trail that Vanessa knows, between the two houses there, it might be sort of dress up those 4x4 posts, and we could even maybe put a post cap on it, which make it a little more inviting to the residents on either side. The other possibility might be burning, doing wood burning on screw-in, 2x4 attachments to posts, for example. The thing about the paint markers, I agree with Mark. I think that's a good way to go in many cases. One of the problems, though, is that you can't put paint markers. You have to have a big enough tree to put a visible paint marker, because generally it's 2 bars, and which indicate trail goes left, trail goes right, trail goes straight ahead, kind of situation. So it may be that there's certain areas where we need to mark a part of the trail, and there just isn't a large enough tree to really put a good paint marker on it.
Yeah. Well, this one is on the John Clyde Jr. Trail in Grigstown. So it's
right.
It's in the wooded section. Obviously, this would be needed for wooded sections.
Right.
The field trails in places like Negri and in Grigstown would be less amenable to this, and the post in the ground option is probably still the best play, although frequently we see those out of the ground and laying on the ground. And
You bet.
so I don't know that that's necessarily a terrific option, given the fact that we've seen many of them down.
Right.
But I don't have a better alternative. So short of that, I think we just have to have some plucky persistence with those and put them back in where we can, I guess.
Yeah.
I like the alternatives you suggested for gussying those up. Those sound nice. That's not in my wheelhouse. I don't know much about woodwork. But I mean, even just putting these, if we save these types of metal markers only for using on those 4x4 post signs, we require a lot less of them, and they certainly wouldn't grow into the wood like they do in a live tree.
Sure.
The problem with those becomes, I've seen those posts put in when they've fallen down. People pick them up and probably with good intention try to help by putting them back in the hole, and then they turn them 90 degrees or 180 degrees, and they're all facing the wrong way at that point. So, that's a challenge as well. But for in the wooded sections, like on the John Clyde Jr. Trail and in Butler Road, for most of Butler Road, I'm sure one could find trees of sufficient girth that would be appropriate for proper marking without too much trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, this trail that I'm proposing off to John Clyde Jr., I do know that right at the intersection, all there is a little hornbeam tree, and it's only about 3 inches in diameter. And I think the only way we can do that one is a metal marker. but yeah, I agree. It's,
or we could paint, rather than following the standard, which I do know is a very widely recognized trail marking standard for the bar above bar kind of situation. We could be a little radical and paint an arrow, and just fit an arrow on a tree in places where the double bars don't fit.
Right.
I could probably manage that. I don't think I can manage wood burning, Chuck, but I could probably manage your painting an arrow with a bit of a brush or a spray can.
Yeah. Well, you can actually get wood burning kits. I mean, you could, for example, you could buy a branding iron with the Franklin Township logo on it, and what you do is you go out and you heat the iron with a propane torch, and then brand it into a wooden post or whatever. I wouldn't do this for a tree, but for example, some of our wooden posts, for example, we might.
I'd be afraid of us doing our own non-prescribed burn by accident. I wouldn't want to be taking a propane torch out on our trails.
I would do it.
You burn,
Braver man than I am, Chuck. I'm not sure I'd be willing to take that risk.
you burn the wooden post in the shop and then pound it in the ground after it's been burned.
Certainly. And that's the kind of stamp that people can't remove very well. Of course, it doesn't do anything for color.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know what we need to do about that, but I don't know what I just was concerned that I know recently Chuck did a great job of giving us a rundown on the inventory of tags, because I think at the last meeting or the meeting before I had given him what I had. So he finally had new stuff, and I think he had kind of a final combination of most of what was available still out there in terms of used and new trail markers.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any more? Are you aware of any other sources?
I'm not.
You're talking about our personal stashes of trail markers?
Right.
I still have some, but I forget. I have a lot of like one color and not what I really need.
I hope it's red. We only have one red marker, and it's sort of scratched up. So
I'll check, Chuck. I might have some red. I'll check. I think Mark's given me some at one point.
Yeah, my concern would just be that we would go and put in another order that might be intended to last us several years when I'm not sure it's the right direction to go. So I don't know if we need a motion or something, or just instructions that, how is paint done normally? Is it brush and can or spray? And is that an option to acquire on behalf. I mean, for crying out loud, it wouldn't bother me in the least to just buy it myself as long as I had the permission. I wouldn't care too much about the couple bucks for a can of paint. I'm not so worried about the cost.
Well,
I just wouldn't want us to go in and order a whole bunch more of these less than ideal square shurikens that we throw into trees here, some ninja throwing star looking thing.
What I can do, if you like the paint system at Sourlands, I know you referenced that, I could reach out to the county and see what paint do they use and how much is it, how often do they have to reapply it. I can kind of get that information because if we're going to go that way, we should order a lot of it so that you all can have it and also so our DPW can have it. So when they go out there to do maintenance work that they can, touch it up or whatever they have to do. So if you want me to find out the details of the paint used by the county, I can definitely do that.
That'd be great. Yeah, and another idea, just a thought, is might be worth asking. I know Rust-Oleum is here in town. They're not too far away from me on Pierce Street, or off of Pierce Street. Who knows? Maybe a kind word and a message to whoever's over there. They might, I don't know how much paint is needed, but if it's spray paint, they might be willing to donate a couple colors, a few cans or whatever for a cause like this for a bit of publicity.
Right.
Just a thought. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the method is you use a spray can and you have a stencil, which is just a rectangular stencil that you hold up in the tree and you spray that area through the stencil. I don't know what kind of paint's used or that sort of thing.
I can find that all out about where they get the stencil from. I can definitely find out all that information so we know what we need and how much we need.
I have a point of clarification because I've never seen what you're talking about at Sourland. At Sourland, I always see white trail markers that are very similar to ours with the Somerset County tree logo on them. Where are you seeing blazes at the Sourland?
Oh gosh, right on the main trails. If you go up, a lot of that's paint. It's blue paint splashes or white paint splashes on the tree.
On the trees,
You go straight up the hill from the parking lot, straight up the rocky path, right in front of the main one. Yeah, it's paint. You like when you get up into the rocks at the top of the hill there, all the rocks are painted.
Oh, all the rocks? Yes. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, and a lot of the trees are. If you follow a lot of the stuff around there, they paint the rocks and the trees.
Because it's funny, because I've taken a lot of pictures of their trail markers, and so I think they have a combination of the trail markers and the blazes. Now that you've triggered that for me, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I very distinctly can see the logo, and when they were rerouting, somebody did like handmade ones, which I thought were funny, like just like on plastic board and like in the Sharpie.
I've seen some of those closer to the bottom, but as you go up top and follow the longer loops around, that's all done with paint. I mean, my wife and I are always looking for the next paint blaze.
Yeah, I see a lot of markers there too. I like the idea of doing a combination.
Sure, it may make sense in spots,
leave what we have up, that's not doing damage, and then like add on the blazes.
Yep. Okay, I'll find out.
Look into that for us.
Yep, I'll find out for the next meeting.
Okay. And then we have next potential volunteer projects, Girl Scout Star Award. We are at 8:05, just to keep us track of time. I'm not sure who else is a Girl Scout on.
I'll just be real brief with it because we don't have a major update, but Chuck and I did have a Zoom meeting the other day with this girl. Her name is Grace. The last name is Glenn. Her mother is Lori Savron, they live in Franklin, but her mom actually happens to be the planning director at Montgomery Township. I don't know if that rings any bells with anybody, but her daughter is a Girl Scout. She's a sophomore, and they have their Girl Scout Star Award, which is basically what the Eagle Award, the Eagle, I don't know what to call it is. So she wants to start working on it now, even though it doesn't have to be done until senior year. She figured right now would be a good time to start brainstorming and thinking about what they want to do. So Chuck has been kind of talking with them and giving them some good ideas about projects they can do. We had a Zoom meeting with her the other day to give her what Chuck had some ideas about that maybe she might be interested in, things like using the iNaturalist tool to map some of the Tree of Heavens versus the spotted lanternfly, which I thought was an excellent idea. Also just labeling trees and you know, projects like that. But interestingly enough, she has the idea of she loves to build, but she's very artsy as well. So her idea, which I thought was cool, she showed us a picture, and the only thing I've ever seen this at is at the Turtleback Zoo. It's it was an eagle, and the person stand in front of it with like your arms out, and you can see what your wingspan is, and it has a whole thing that explains about it. So that was like kind of what her muse was. But as she went down the road, she started thinking about, well, maybe I'm interested in doing a poetry trail or a storybook trail, where you basically along the trail, you know, you can put the elements of a story and relate it back to the things you might find on the trail, or a poetry walk, which is where you just, as you walk every once in a while, you have pieces of poetry that are laminated and put there. So she kind of started brainstorming while we were on the phone with her. So her and her mom basically said, thank you for the call. This is great. We're going to really think about this, and then we'll come back to the committee with a proposal. So she seems very driven, and she was like a really nice person and very artsy, and she loves to build. She is like a builder at heart, so we thought it was really cool. Yes, her dad's in construction, and she loves construction. So we'll keep you posted on how it goes.
Well, you know, I got to thinking just today that, you know, maybe she could make some of these, you know, 2x4, you know, routed out arrows and that sort of thing, and label markers. The other thing I wanted to mention was that she talked about Middlebush Park as being one place to put in these interpretive signs and so on. And I rode my bike out there this morning and went through the children's path, the natural path there. And I have to be honest, I actually rode the zip line that was out there. If you haven't done that, go do it. It's I've got to take my grandkids there the first chance I get. But Gloria Fittacaro has done a terrific job in putting together that little and they got interpretive signs already on that trail. One of them is how can you tell the age of a tree by reading tree rings and things like that. It's I think it's a great feature, and I think it's something we can do more of actually.
Perhaps we could add that to Inman Park.
I recommended Inman Park. Yeah, I did recommend Inman Park because that was one of the things that came to my mind.
Inman's a little, you know, Inman's a short trail, but to add something like that to a shorter, more accessible trail might make it more interesting and more of something more of an attraction.
Yeah, you know, it's in. I don't know if anyone has ever been in Montgomery to Sunrise Park, I think is the name of it. It's right next to Hobler Park, which is on Route 206. It's one of their bigger parks, but this is a little park right next to it, and it has a 1 mile loop trail, so it's very small. But when you go in there, what's cool is it's a sculpture trail. So they have very different sculptures done by residents, and sometimes you have to walk into the wooded area a little more. Sometimes it's right out on the trail. So she was familiar with that, being that her mom works in Montgomery. And I also directed her to Bound Brook because I don't know if they've finished it yet, but they had proposed a storybook trail at one of their trails. So she was going to go do that and also look at the iNaturalist tool and then get back to us.
Great. Thanks. That sounds like great projects, every single one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next section we have is for trail reports.
Yeah, so the two that are listed there, I put on because Chuck had mentioned that he wants to talk about those two. So I put those on, and then if, you want to do your regular trail maintenance reports, feel free, whatever you guys think is best.
Okay, just a few days ago, I got a call from a concerned citizen who told me that there was someone had taken what looks like a four-wheel pickup truck onto the trail, on the purple trail at Bunker Hill Road, which is where I guess my primary monitor is. They did a lot of damage to the trail going up, and they crossed that stream that we have the bridging problem with.
Talking about Bunker Hill or Butler?
I'm sorry, Butler Road. I'm sorry. I do this all the time.
Butler.
Okay. You just said Bunker Hill too. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the purple at Bunker Hill? Now I get it.
Yeah, for sure. They crossed that little tributary to the stream, doing quite a bit of damage to the bank and to the stream itself. And then they went up the trail, and they went in. It turns out they went in to clear a log jam on 10 Mile Run Stream. And this was a big log jam. There's no question about it, but I think the stream was still flowing through it. And where they cleared the log jam, which they did with chainsaws and whatever, they also dumped a lot of silt and debris on the banks and so on. I actually stream walked it. I put on my knee-high boots and walked up the stream to that point, which you can do. It's this time of year, it's pretty shallow. There's only areas, but there's a huge accumulation of silt there, and I actually got stuck in it, thinking for a moment I thought that this might be quicksand up to my boots, tops of my boots with it. But I don't know whether this is some job that was done by Public Works, or whether this was done by some citizen downstream farmer that wanted to clear the stream because they wanted to clear the stream. But it, in a way, I mean, all of this damage will sort of repair itself, particularly with the floods. I think with the floods next spring, and just plant growth over the summer. But I'm really sort of concerned that people will see these tracks going in there and see the trail damage and think, hey, we can take our ATV in there, or take our start four-wheeling in this area. And we don't want that. It will cause tremendous damage to our trails and so on. So one of the things I was wondering whether we ought to do is to simply post a sign saying no vehicles on the trail, township law, $2,000 fine, which I think is what the maximum fine is now or whatever. But the other is, find out, I sort of like to know who did this and why they did it. And if it wasn't Public Works, I mean, there are other approaches that they could have taken over township land that I think we leased to one of the farmers in the area that would have, first of all, not caused as much damage to the trail and so on. So any clues, Terry? Do you know who did you find out who did this?
I didn't find out for sure, but I believe that Public Works may have removed the log jam. I don't think that they would bring that silt and all that in there. So I think that they may have removed the log jam, but it may be something else that caused the other issues. I'm not sure. I'm trying to find out exactly what happened, but I think it may have been a removal by Public Works because, it was, like you said, it was a pretty bad log jam. In terms of using any of the leased farmland, in order for us to go on any of the farmland that we lease, even though it's our property, if we were going to do anything that could potentially be near any of their crops or plants, anything they planted, that could be an issue. So I'm not sure like what the backstory is on that, but I can keep trying to find out.
Okay, well, I guess that raises up one more question with respect to that particular land, which I understand that the township owns. We bought it from a farmer, and we're leasing back plowed fields to the farmer. But does the farmer also have right to restrict public access to the wooded areas? I would certainly like to go explore those wooded areas. I would think it might actually be a great opportunity for more of a wooded trail in a very interesting and nice habitat. But what are the terms of the lease, I guess, is I'm asking, and what rights do we have as citizens to go into that particular property?
Well, each lease is different. It depends on how much of the area is leased to the farmer. I would have to go to their exact lease to find out, which is no problem. I can look that up and get back to you on that. But with every lease, if we're going to enter the property that we're leasing to them, we give them 48 hours notice just to let them know that we'll be coming through. We obviously can't do anything that would damage their crops or anything they've planted on their portion of the leased property. So I'd have to look at because every lease is different. For some of the properties we have, not every acre is leased out for farmland. Some of it is still open space. It depends on how we can access it. So I'll have to look at that lease for sure, but we do give them notice regardless, just to, follow the terms of the lease, but also to let them know that we're coming through on the property that we're leasing to them while they're there. So
yeah, I guess that also pertains to questions Anne Marie and I had about the memorial forest trails there. What areas? Clearly, the farmer doesn't want to sell their plowed land. But is there some kind of concern about the forested areas? I have the feeling that the tenant farmer in that case is leasing out some of those areas to hunters. Does that mean that we can't go on that area, if that's the case?
So the memorial forest, not all of it is leased to the farmer. There are areas that are not currently leased to the farmer. There's also an area there that allows access by DPW because I believe there's a water meter back there that has to be accessed and repaired sometimes. I don't know the exact acreage that's leased, but again, we have a map of that and we have the lease on file. So I can definitely pull that up and see what is leased and what's not leased. But like I said, I mean, if we ever want to go out there, as long as we're not intruding on their planted fields or doing anything to damage their crops or hurt any livestock or anything like that, as long as we give notice, it's pretty easy to, request, can we come out and check this out?
Okay. Well, thanks. I'd like to get that information just so we know where we are and what we're doing. Particularly if we go out and map that brown trail in the memorial forest and think about improving it.
Right. Now it's also good to know because when the lease expires, if we're looking to change any of the terms of the lease before we put it out again for auction, we would like to, if there's any terms of the lease to change, then that would be the time to look at it. Right now, I'm not sure how many years are left on that lease because the farm leases tend to be, at least 5, 7, 10 years. So I'll have to look and see what the terms are.
Okay. Yeah, that would be. Is this information public record or is this?
It's public record. I'm not sure exactly how you would go about getting. I mean, you could Oprah it, obviously, but I have the information, so I can look at it and share it with everybody. But it's public info. Yep.
That would be great.
It's an interesting little trail in the woods there. So I would like.
It really is, and actually, there's other wooded areas. We can connect through and actually extend that trail. So,
Yeah. And the
Okay.
people who live there have devised a nice little birding trail in from the side by one of the backyards into the trail area. It's very interesting what's going on over there.
Okay. I'll look into it.
Other committee, other trail maintenance reports?
Yeah, I guess during the times when we were allowed to finally do so in recent weeks, been out on the Briggstown trails, the primary ones. Have not taken the trails up that connect up to the environmental center, the Bunker Hill Environmental Center, but all of the loops from the parking lot, my wife and I have done, and I would say it's in pretty good shape. The fence is in good shape. There doesn't appear to have been any real recent vandalism. I guess the real issue is we've taken some of the targets of vandalism away because the kiosk is completely empty. It's devoid of anything. It's devoid of plexiglass or glass. It's devoid of pretty much everything. It's completely blank, more or less. Which is probably good in some ways because it's tough to keep the information necessarily up to date. I guess there was on the back side, I should be careful there. On the back side, there was still a map, but on the front side, it's completely blank. But otherwise, it's in good shape. We were there both in some muddy time and some not muddy time. It's certainly much nicer in the not muddy time. They probably need a couple more. At some point they might want to look again at dumping some more of that large rock that they had done in the past in some of the muddier areas, because that definitely helped some of the areas where they've dumped it.
Okay.
Particularly near some of the benches. It seems that our bench locations on the Griggstown Grassland Preserve several of them happen to be in very muddy locations as well, sadly. So maybe it's worth dumping some of that rock in those areas.
Yeah, the bench where you can watch the sunset is sort of muddy around there, but it's a nice spot.
Oh yeah, I mean they're good spots. The benches are picked out well in terms of being a nice place to sit and a nice view. But when things are wet, they are a little challenging to get to and want to sit there. But that's a mind. For me, I'm usually there to walk, not to sit. So it's not a big deal for me. But I'm sure there's people. These are very good trails for a wide range of capabilities, and to allow people who might need a more frequent rest break, it's nice to have those benches. So maybe it would be nice to have those benches more easily accessible during times of a little bit wetter weather. But otherwise, the trails are in great shape. We already talked about the markers, so I'll say no more about that. In general, they're in really good shape. They've been mowed well. They're easy to see. They definitely need the prescribed burns that we mentioned at some point in time, because the sections away, obviously the parts that haven't been mowed and the field sections look overrun with, I'm no botanist, but they certainly look overrun with things that don't look like native grass. So they need some help. That's all I got for Griggs.
Okay.
Any other trail reports? I haven't been the last couple weeks, but things have been looking fairly good to me for Bunker Hill, Franklin Park. There's still the bench issue at the beginning part of Bunker Hill. One bench is missing. There's a cone there. The other one is there, but it's still damaged. So that's just still on the list.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to reports from other committees.
Well, none of our other committees have met until you guys are the second committee that I've met with. I met with Ag Advisory last week. for their committee meeting, and no major updates there. OSAC is going to meet on Tuesday, so the 16th is the Open Space Advisory Committee meeting. So I'll probably have some updates at that point. Trying to think if there's anything else I can update you on. One interesting thing that I don't know if it'll affect trails or not, but one thing that's cool is the township was awarded a $20,000 grant from Sustainable Jersey to do, I'm so excited, to do a green infrastructure feasibility study. So on our open spaces. So basically the Water Resources Division at Rutgers will come out and look at some of our open spaces and see where can green infrastructure be used to deal with some of our flooding and ponding or for educational purposes. And not only that, they'll give us the sketches and the cost estimates and the materials list so that this way we'll kind of be ready to do some of that work if, where we choose to do it. So maybe along some of the trails might be cool. As we get further along, I'll keep you all in the loop. We just got awarded the grant in May, so right now I'm just kind of like in talks with the director there. His name is Dr. Abrupta, and he's done a lot of rain gardens across New Jersey, especially in Hillsborough. He's done a lot there. So maybe that might be some interesting spots to talk about as we move down.
So would that be like adding, because we have a rain garden along the driveway into Griggstown, would be adding more of those on other open space properties? Is that the kind of concept?
That's the concept. It's not limited to just rain gardens, though, which is really cool. They'll look at all possibilities, which the most popular type of green infrastructure is rain gardens, but they'll also look at things like porous pavement, cisterns, large ones, and rain barrels. They'll look at all types of bioswales that could be in curbing, in sidewalks. So they look at a variety of alternatives, and then they'll present those to us.
Great. That sounds exciting, Tara. Thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'll keep you all
posted.
posted.
Did you help apply for that one? Congratulations.
I did, yeah. I was excited. I was super excited. Well, it was like,
Great
we all
work,
worked
Tara.
on it. Thank you. Well, a bunch of us worked on it, and it was, we were like having our fingers crossed because they only give out 5 of these. And so we were so excited, and I think it'll be really cool. So.
Right.
Tara, I have a question about open space. I sent an email, but I didn't hear back. I know last time we met in February, there was opening on open space. Is there still an opening on open space just for committee members?
Yes, there's, as far as I know, there still is, unless I don't think it's been filled. So that's a citizen, I believe Randy, so it was for Randy Jones's spot, and I think he was a citizen member.
Okay. Great. I just, one of the people who who's here today, I thought might be interested in that. I just wanted to see if that was still open for her to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone on the in the attendees, or if you guys know anyone, if there's openings for OSAC or trails, there's the link on our website, which I think I sent last time, but I can definitely send again. There's a link on our website for anyone interested to fill out what committee they're interested, and I think they have to answer a few questions, and then it goes to the council. So I can forward you that, though, Vanessa, because it can be like in there a little bit.
Yeah, it's good to dig around a little bit. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.